Welcome, everybody, to another glorious episode of Cash Flow Positive, because we do have a glorious episode today. We have a very, very special episode. This one, I want you, if you're listening in the car, you're going to have to listen to this thing on YouTube or watch this thing on YouTube. It is well worth it. I brought in a special guest. Now, so our guest is Ashley. Ashley Guy, she lives in Gold Shores, Alabama. She's an agent. She's a coach. Let me just start listing all the stuff that Ashley does. She's an STR owner, operator. She has a property management company, manages over 25 properties, and a cleaning company. And on top of all these different things too, she's a mom of 6. So she wears all these different hats. And so obviously we're going to talk a little bit about different operations and things, but we really want to focus on her unique Airbnb. And she has a really special Airbnb that she's going to share with us. There's no better way to describe it. So without further ado, Ashley, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hey, Kenny, thanks again for having me today. So I started my short-term rental investing journey in 2020. About 2 years prior to that, I was looking at long-term rentals and I just really wasn't excited. My husband was the pioneer of this idea, and I just was not behind it 100%. And we had one conversation that said, hey, have you ever thought about buying a cabin in the woods? And I was like, why would anyone buy a cabin in the woods? I'm a beach person through and through. So that was a foreign concept to me. Renting a cabin in the woods is not something on my to-do list at any time. And so I really quickly researched to understand this short-term rental model and was like, wow, this is incredibly lucrative. And it's not something I'd ever thought of, especially I didn't think that was something that we as pretty average people could afford. But we did a lot of research really quickly from that conversation. And 2 weeks later, we were in contract on our first short-term rental, a cabin in the woods, and fell in love with the business of short-term rentals. We absolutely loved being able to help provide vacations to other families. It felt like a full circle moment of being like, we had all these memories growing up of traveling and renting other people's places. And now we could be on the opposite end of that. And we grew very quickly. So we bought 5 in our first 13 months, which we committed, and then have just continued to expand since then. So today I have 11 properties. And over that time as well, our family has grown and we've shifted our dynamic a good bit. So we purchased our first property a few days after our 5th child was born. So we want to talk about a little postpartum craziness and a whole lot going on. Then we had another kid. So we have 6 kiddos. And we relocated our family from Columbus, Ohio to Gulf Shores, Alabama 2 years ago. And that was a tribute to making that first step of investing in short-term rentals. That started changing the trajectory of our lives to be able to create the life that we wanted, not that we had to have by default. And so here we are today. We've done some experimenting on some different properties, and I'm excited to share that information with you.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. We're going to have a fun conversation. So I have to ask, so with the cabins, were they all over? Were they in certain markets? Where did you acquire these first cabins?
We started in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, bought 2 there, and then we bought our first beach house. That was our third purchase in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And then we went to Blue Ridge, Georgia. And then we went to Davenport, Florida, Disney Market, Crystal Beach, Texas, and back to the Smokies and back to Gulf Shores. So at this present moment, I have cabins in Tennessee, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and then here in Gulf Shores, we have several beach houses here. So we got rid of Texas and Florida along the way, just as we changed up our portfolio.
Nice. Okay. Cool. That's really exciting. And you're hanging out in Gold Shores, where I know you're an agent. I think you do coaching, right? Yep, you do coaching, and obviously you run short-term rentals. Anything else? Any other hats you wear too? Mom of 6. That's crazy. So that's a lot going on.
I manage 25 additional properties here
Oh, wow.
in Gulf Shores, and then I also run an Airbnb cleaning business. So I have my hands on every part of this process, from helping others identify and acquire amazing rentals, but then also teaching them how to make them a top performer here in this market, and then the full service clean and management if they want to be hands on.
That's awesome. Cool. 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 Well, that is a lot going on. So you're really busy. So, number one, I appreciate you being on the show and taking time out of your busy day to share stuff with us. Now, um, we might get to talk about Gulf Shores, which is fine. But I want to start with focusing on what the title is and why people are going to be listening to this episode. So, I'm going to do something rare. I do this occasionally, Ashley. I'll actually share my screen because we put this on YouTube and people will watch it live on YouTube. Obviously, most people who download this listen to it on like car. And I'm going to encourage those folks to watch this as we are just watch this on YouTube when it comes out because the pictures will help tell the story. I think as we dive into this very unique investing style. So let me go ahead and before I just spoil it with some terrible introduction of the type of property you have, I'm going to pop this thing up. So we have here, this is Ashley's property. This is in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and it was one of her cabins. It's just a simple one bed, one bath. Just kidding. The fun part here, Ashley, we have to do is we have to describe this thing because people listening in the car are going to be like, "What the heck are they talking about?" so, basically, let's start with the title. Well, first off. No. We'll start with the title. We'll go back to some back history here. So the title of this property is called New Kink Cabin Adult Theme Romance. And yeah, so Ashley, obviously this is a what do you call these types of cat or these spaces? Is there a term or word for it?
I would call it an adult playroom.
Okay, adult play cabin. There we go. Cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here today, Kenny. So if I cross the line, you just give me a
It's
look.
fine. It's a really, it's a fun topic. So go ahead, and this is edited. So if we need to cut something out later, we will. So feel free. I think people will want to hear it because I think this is it's a cool property. For those of you listening, we'll describe some of the stuff in it in a second. But she did an amazing job. And first off, let's shout out 4.97 with 224 reviews. Holy crap. And I don't understand how this isn't a top 1% property or 5%. So, but we could talk about that another time too. But this is a guest favorite. She's got a 4.97 rating with 224 reviews. And this property, it's a cabin out in the Smokies, out in the woods. It's got a couple nicknames, but the main one here is Smoky Secret. So I like that one. But go ahead, Ashley. Tell us more about the cabin.
So for those of y'all listening and not watching, I typically just call it a sex dungeon because that's what it is. And so this is a safe space for couples to explore intimate fantasies. And it's done in a very classy way that's still very safe, provides a lot of different fantasies for people to explore, but in a very comfortable and clean space. And as you're kind of talking about the rating, it's surprising to me that 224 people have put their face on this property. So we've obviously had way more stays than that. But that many people are so excited to be like, hey, trademark, I was here. Okay. But we do get several guests that
Hey,
are
I know
like,
that guy. I'm just kidding.
hey,
Oh,
we have
someone named Chastity. All right, this is all making sense now. Okay, keep going.
I have a frequent flyer, and every time he comes back, we get super excited. We have no idea if he brings the same person or not, but we love you, Ben. So this actually came. Let me give you a little backstory because this might change how you think of me. But I was in the novelty toy sales for over a decade. So that's what I did previous to being a realtor. And so talking about this, just being really sex positive, getting information out there, like it's not a shameful thing. Obviously, I have 6 kids, so you know what I like to do in my spare time. But this is something that isn't foreign to me. It's not shameful. There's nothing wrong with it. People ask me all the time, though, is this your personal playground? I mean, I wish, but I've actually never seen this property. So I designed it from afar. I walked it before we did a full remodel on it, but I have never seen it completed because it's booked all the damn time. So this is a property that I felt like giving different interests. And while I was researching about some of these other fantasies, I didn't even really know some of these things existed. Like they even for someone who's really comfortable in that space, it was just really cool to learn. And my search history was really questionable for a while because as I'm trying to figure out what to source, reputable sources, the bed is completely custom, it's handmade, and had to be brought in on like trailers, and it was a crazy process. But this is just a really, really cool space that a lot of people have got to love on. It allowed me to flex some creativity. My husband had a large part of the creativity too. Um, Little touches of, kind of, I don't want to say like, it's not tacky, but it's kind of like bachelorette party in some spots, but you won't really see that it's cheap. None of it was cheap. It's this very elevated experience, but some moments that'll make you laugh a little bit, like our toilet paper holders, phallic
Is it,
shaped. So like it's so funny.
I gotta look for this thing. Is it in the pictures or
And I don't think there's a close up of it, but it's just one of
it's a
those things.
surprise. It's a plus one, right? Yeah, but no, I mean there are definitely like little things here that but I'm gonna be, look, guys, like I personally I don't my I know my wife's like, no, we would never stay here. But here's the thing though. The place looks very like very clean, very luxury, very like you said, like safe space. Like there isn't, um I think when people hear, it's really interesting. I have these conversations with people about this. We're going to talk about the data and everything behind this because I want to bring in. I've seen these places before in other cities, in other areas, and they do very, very well. And there's obviously like there's huge demand for this, but there's not a lot of supply because people are worried about cleanliness and all these other things, which we're going to talk about. But I think what you've done here is it's very simple and elegant. Obviously, we get what it is, but it's also a really nice place to stay too. It's not just like a Red Roof Inn or something like sleazy motel. Like it's like this is nice and something that couples, obviously targeting couples, can get away to. So I want to ask you. Obviously, you've worked, with the not in the novelty industry before. Did you have this idea? Where did it come from? How did you decide you wanted to try this out? Because obviously, this was it started out as a test, correct?
Yes, it was going to be a sink or swim and figure out what happened really fast. So I actually, for the previous company I worked for, I tried to convince the CEO to invest in these and create them. Where I was like, we can do really cool things. We have a lot of products that we could place in there and such. And he just wasn't buying the idea. It was a little too much of a risk for him. And so I just kept that concept to myself. And then we were looking for the best property that might fit this. And this cabin came on the market and it was somebody's primary residence, but they were not the average people. We walked in and there were, I think, devil sculptures on the sides. And then there was, this like bird cage hanging from the vaulted ceiling that was larger than a typical bird cage. There was leather with studs wrapped around the doors. Like it already had an essence of kind of freakiness to it. And, and when we walked in, because we traditionally invest in like, normal cabins in the Smokies. We're like, there's no way that this could be a normal cabin. It just, there's too much weirdness to it. And so, like, the only thing it can be is this beautiful dungeon. It had several fireplaces. We kept a lot of those things. We just made them a little bit prettier, giving them a fresh coat of paint, putting in electric versus gas, just kind of those small things. But we gave this entire house a remodel, and the remodel cost around $42,000. It took about 3.5 months, and everything in it is brand new. So that was really fun, really scary. We designed this from Columbus, Ohio, and said, hey, here's what we're sourcing, here's what we want, had everything delivered. It was actually our cleaners and maintenance group that put the entire cabin together for us. So I've not seen it, but I know a lot of people absolutely love it. And it came together really well.
I'm sure your cleaners and handyman were like, when you told them at first, they're like, what? What are we putting
No,
together?
they were not at all.
Oh,
They said,
really? Okay.
yeah, no, they said, isn't that what every Airbnb is anyway? And I was like, yes.
That's that's a really good point. That's the thing too. Like, I mean, you are calling out something that we already know goes on, but we just don't talk about publicly, and it's the same idea with people like for example, like I personally don't drink. Um, but like I know people drink at my properties and I understand that. Like people are gonna drink and that's just part of it. It's like it's gonna happen. If they're on vacation and they're wanting to relax and not worry about, the struggles and all the things going on in the world today. And so there, you're just playing into an element of that. So that's really awesome. So let's talk numbers because you're doing it. It looks a really cool looking property, really clean. Like I mentioned, I want to emphasize that for everyone listening, and luxury as well. What did you buy this cabin for?
$333,000.
333,000. Okay, and then what was the renovation cost?
42,000.
$42,000. How much did it gross last year or the last 12 months? I'm putting on some of this.
Okay. So we were paid out 119,000 so that was rent and cleaning fees.
Wow, wow. Do you happen to know the net?
No, I can tell you real quick.
It's it's probably going to be what, like maybe 50, 60, something like that. Anyway, but guys, like a $330,000.
It's way higher than that. So quick math, because I know what my cleaning cost is and then how many stays we had. So it's going to be 84,000.
Wow. 84,000 net on a $330,000 cabin. And when did you guys buy this?
In 22.
Yeah, prices weren't cheap then. I bought in 22. And you probably had, what do you know what your interest rate was?
I think it was mid fives.
Mid fives. Okay. So you got in a good time. So decent though. I mean, that's still not in the threes. So these guys, like people ask all the time, like, hey, is it possible to hit these kind of numbers? The answer is yes, it is. But are you willing to put in the work and to figure out how to hit those numbers? Most people aren't.
This was a big trial and error, and we either knew it was going to be a massive success or it was going to be a complete failure. And then we had to think about, well, if it's a failure, how do we get rid of it? Because we're going to have to redo the inside again and make it, saleable. So that was a huge risk. But what we know is sex sells, and we figured that we'd be able to get people in there. We were worried about the exposure of how do you get it out there. But we are only listed on Airbnb. I did start a TikTok for it. I only posted a few things on there, but it just naturally has taken off. And we've been torn apart in Reddit. We've had great reviews online, articles written about it, both ways. But any type of notoriety is great. So keep talking about us.
I agree. I agree. So one thing I want to mention is, and I don't know, actually, you maybe have known this or whatever, but there's other properties like this in different markets, and they all do really well. There's one in Nashville. There's like an apartment in Nashville, like a condo. I've seen one in San Antonio. I've seen one in Indianapolis. Obviously, this one was Smokies, and I've seen some in Florida. And some of them are a little bit nicer than others. Some of them you're like, really? Like, that doesn't feel like clean. I would, like, that feels icky. But when you look at the data and the numbers, they all do really, really, really well. Like well above just a normal 1 bedroom, even 2 bedroom or even 3 bedroom properties. because they're speaking to a unique audience, and the supply of these are very, very limited. And I think that it's, obviously we're talking about like, it's a sex cabin, right? But regardless of the sex cabin, I've seen, weed, like a weed or a marijuana house, someone did in Atlanta, Georgia, that just does so well. And I'm like, I would never, none of us allow people to smoke in our places. And this one's like the complete opposite. They're like, come smoke, come enjoy. Like, and I think that, like the whole, when everyone zigs, you zag. And if you're understand like there's demand for these things, it's going to do well. You know what I mean? So the data backs that up, and I think that backs up. There's other ideas out there too. So like if this isn't your jive, I get it, but I think that there's other possibilities and other things you can get into that will work just as well. But it's thinking outside of the box. What say you on?
The money is in the niche properties because everybody keeps copying each other or trying to be like, oh, well, so and so did this, and I'm just going to change one thing and elevate myself. Well, that's not it. People are looking for an immersive experience right now. And so if you have a creative idea, um, even if it seems really, really far stretched, it's probably brilliant. And you need to just actually execute. But it has to be completely immersive. Every detail has to be thought of. And that's expensive. But people are going to pay expensive rates to stay there because they want such an immersive experience. So it doesn't have to be drugs or sex. There's a million other things that you could pick and just go all in on.
Love it. Yeah, 100%. So what, tell me, like, are you going to do more of these? Or is this a one and done?
No, not a one and done. So what we are working on is a different type of experience. So we get often asked, can we have more than two people? And every now and then we'll allow groups of three simply because it's a king bed. And if they want to share that, that's fine. But there are other experiences we'd like people to enjoy and like for them to have some additional room. So we are working on, some other concepts that are going to be similar. I don't want to copy paste. That's not at all. I'd really actually love something that maybe a little bit more white instead of kind of that darkness, kind of dungeony feel. I want something that's a bit more brighter. And we have experimented with the idea of putting something down at the beach. People are vacationing here already. There's some logistical things that are in the works in Gulf Shores that's going to make that a better decision to do that here now. Having direct flights, commercial flights starting in less than a month. And so that will allow couples to travel easier versus having them drive 10 hours for a 1 night or 2 night stay. So that's something else that's on my radar. Feel free to try and beat me to it, but better be classy because I'm bringing it and I'm very excited about the expansion of these.
Yeah. And you'll probably build a brand and something that you might be able to sell in the future. I think it's really cool. So with that being said, you're in a beach market, traditional vacation beach market. How does one go into a beach market, not necessarily have to repeat, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, have to replicate the same exact thing and do the exact same thing. But how does one go into maybe more traditional vacation markets and come up with unique ideas and things? And like, how do you get inspiration, or how do you advise people to basically try to make a niche property?
So Pinterest is a great way. Following trends, even on any of the social media platforms, are great. One of my clients just took the coastal cowboy theme and did their entire house with that. And it is, think like Nashville Bachelorette, but at the beach. And so it's this beautiful blend of feminine and soft colors, but still has the cowboy boots, has the neon lights, but it's so very tasteful. And it's completely different than anything we have here. And its calendar and its rates are off the charts. So we are seeing that there's opportunities to take something even that's more of a traditional beach house. It just has a lot of flair to it. And particularly this stretch of market does not have houses with flair. They don't have the immersive experience. They're very basic, they're very boring, And it's very easy to enter a market like Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Fort Morgan, and have something that is really cool. I would love to see, like a true surf house. I have surfboards in a couple of my properties, but like, man, if you just go all in with something like surfer and everything is maybe retro California vibes, like that would be so cool. That's different than everybody else here. There's a lot of opportunities like that. Fishing would be another great one where it's practical to the market. And that's also the component that I think is great for the more traditional market. Think about what your guests are going to be doing or what they're coming for, and how do you just make that come alive within the house? And I don't mean like, oh, you're at the beach, let's throw seashells up on the wall because everybody has the same Hobby Lobby decor. That's not what I mean. I mean something that's just really, really, really specific. And that's what all of my clients is you have to break it down even more so. It's not just going to be boats. Is it sailboats? Is it anchors? Is it fishing nets? Like there's a million ways to make things really cool and immersive. And so just start Googling things, searching, talking with people, seeing what's trending. Yeah, it's a great way to just start a rabbit hole. And sometimes it takes a while to really develop that concept, but it's totally worth it.
I love that. So I'm working with a property. I close on a property in Texas. The market will be unnamed because it's not a common market that people know about for vacation rentals. And I'm waiting to launch the property, and then I'll tell people because people will just literally follow me there, which is fine. But like I'm like, let's get established first, and then the masses can try to come follow me. And I want to set up my moat. So, but I was working with a company that does, I don't want to like, I'm not trying to pick on any companies like in general. So I'm not going to say names, and I'm not saying they're a bad company, but a lot of these companies now in the STR space, they're very like, I feel like it is copy paste. It's like here are the 5-minute pickleball court, hot tub sauna, do some color, like, and it's pretty much all the same. And I sat down with them and I said, this is just basic. I said, this is basic Airbnb. And they're like, whoa, we have all these. And I was like, I understand that. But like, we're already assuming the property needs to be at another level, but this, somebody can just come and replicate. I want something unique. I want something that's like you said, immersive and speaks to the guest avatar. And, I kind of got on to them because I said, our guest avatar are families. And we have some stuff for families, but you put a poker room, like a whole room dedicated towards poker. And I'm like, that's not like who I'm not trying to attract bachelors and all. I get it, people play poker, but like that feels like wasted space to me. We could do something else there. And I went on Pinterest because they were like, challenge me back. Like, well, what? And I was like, I'm not the designer, but all right, I'll do your job for you. So kind of like laid into them there. So I went on Pinterest and I found this really cool, super simple, but like trivia, like not trivia, but like board game. And it had like this whole wall that had like this bookshelf, but it wasn't a bookshelf. It was like a custom thing with like lighting inside. And you put the games like facing out. So it was like, and there was probably like 30 different board games you could play. And then it had like a table and all this stuff for like specifically for board games. But it was like, and then on the wall, on the wall is like lit up like a game room or game night or something stupid like that. But like, and then there was like a whiteboard, a chalkboard, like everything you would need to like play board games and other games in this room with a group of like 10 to 12 people. It was like, and it was not a huge, I was like, let's do something like that. Like you don't see that kind of stuff. It's like, go all in, like don't just put board games in your Airbnb, but highlight it, obviously that's not the only great thing about this property is the board game room, but like that is one component. And I think that what you said about the fishing or the surfing or whatever, like I see people try to buy good properties, but then they just stop there. And it's not just about the good property, it's about what you do with the property. So yeah, I really like that. So where you have a lot of good ideas, where do you get your inspiration from?
I don't know. I'm not a TV
Experience?
person,
That's what it sounds like. From
which
experience.
surprises people. So I don't really, I don't really listen to a whole lot, and I don't watch a whole lot. So a lot of that good content tends to come from like during workouts and such, where I'll just start thinking about like what's going to be great or what would be nice or things that I wish I would have done. And we have a few design boards for the next upcoming projects, just lingering in the background or for clients to, share and pick from so that we can continue to help them. But I don't have any good points of inspiration. My husband gets a lot of his inspiration for creativity from running.
Really? Wow, that's awesome.
Clear mind. Yep.
Clear mind. Yep. 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 I agree. I get a lot of weird, not weird, but I get good ideas in the shower. So, but yeah, running or quiet moments where you like literally just like meditating and like stuff pops in your head. Not a lot of other noises going on. I think that's, yeah. So, no, that's really cool. So, let's talk about, so in the beach markets there, are you looking at other markets to invest in, or are you just doubling down in the markets you're currently in?
Not looking at new markets currently. We did a lot of exploring upfront and have narrowed it down. We will continue to narrow down a little bit more, but this has been a great market for us. The thing that I like about Gulf Shores is it is an established vacation rental market. So it's not one of these places where when I was in Crystal Beach, Texas, where I was struggling to find vendors or cleaners and like getting stuff there was really challenging because the infrastructure didn't support the level of tourism that I was hoping it would. But this market in Gulf Shores, it's just very, it's known, but it's still kind of quiet. We're not Destin. We're not 30A. We're not Rosemary Beach. We're not Miramar. We're not these yet. And so, what I like about this market is we can come in and position ourselves in the top 25% very quickly by elevating the guest experience because it is so low. And then also bringing in a really fun design. And I would say our current properties here are like B designs. If you're going to grade them, they're like a B, but they're better, way better than everyone else. They're not necessarily the fully immersive experience. They're cool, they're bright, poppy colors, but compared to some of these A plus and even to this King Cabin, no, we're not there. But we're still able to dominate a good sect of this guest population just because we have elevated enough to position ourselves there. I don't have to have A plus to do amazing here. And that to me is the opportunity for this market. And it's why we have continued to reinvest here many times.
Right. No, that's awesome. Yeah, so I was telling you earlier, my grandparents live in Fairhope. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Alabama yet. Or Southern Alabama. If you know where like Daphne and it's like north of there, and then my dad's like from Saraland, so it's like that's where my parents went to high school. So we go down there quite a bit, visit family and friends, and everything. And we love flying. We fly into like Pensacola, and I think in there like a Bucky's on the way. I love Bucky's, so like stop and drive by there. But anyway, so yeah, it's a really like you said, it's quiet, it's nice, it's all, but also it's known about too. Like I think Destin and Panama City Beach have a specific reputation. They each have their own reputations. And I think people are if they're looking for quiet, they go more towards, Orange Beach, Cold Shores area. And Fort Morgan, I think it's like the ultimate quiet. But yeah, really cool area, really cool beach area too to check out, and love the white sand. So for those of you who've never been down to that area, it's beautiful. So, and it snows there apparently. So
8.8 inches of snow this year.
yeah. I was in Destin when it snowed, and I was so disappointed. So everyone there, all the locals were loving it, and I was just like, because I was living in Buffalo, New York, and we go down south. We go down to Destin in the wintertime just to kind of get away and warmer climate. It was like, what is this crap? So anyway, a little bit disappointed this year, but yeah. So I have a follow up question that I just remembered. When you're thinking of what to do with a property, are you searching for properties that like, so do you have an idea and you're like, I want to do this, like, for example, the surfer or the fishing? Okay. Do you have that idea and then you're like, I want to find a property that matches that? Or do you look for a property first and then you look at the property and go, I have multiple ideas or a single idea. Maybe this would be a better fit for this property. What's your process?
I look for the property first. And then I've got a series of inspiration boards that I'll work off of and be like, okay, this is what I really feel, or this is what I think is more fitting for that. That's to me the easiest way. Because here, you can't change the location or anywhere. You can't change this location. So I'd rather find the right area to fit what I'm looking for. And then I can just design it based off of maybe how that house feels.
I'm glad you said that. Because that's what I tell people to do too. I felt like it was like not really a rhyme or reason. I just felt like that's the right way to do it. But hearing from someone who's very experienced in this, has done it multiple times with very unique properties and standard properties, that confirms that I'm glad to hear that. But I think that's true. I think you have to look at the property, look at the location, and then go and try to get inspiration. I think that's like really, really important. But if you like some of these ideas that Ashley's doing in other markets, I think there's tremendous opportunity. There are some major cities that don't have these types of like the King Cows or some of these other things that you can take advantage of, for those who are willing to go down that route. So yeah, I think that's really cool. So Ashley, as we're kind of wrapping up here, any final thoughts on like unique Airbnbs, or like kind of creating that unique strategy, and maybe even thoughts on finding the right property?
I think everyone should take a chance on that, right? There's so much copy paste going on everywhere. And so this is your differentiator. To me, that is one part of my portfolio that I know will perform. It's going to perform, it's going to withstand a lot of things. And it's different than everything else. And so that's my rock. I know what I can count on. And that income has not wavered since the beginning. So it's clearly gaining traction. And it is our best performing. It's our best investment so far. And why would we not continue to explore other avenues to create additional streams of income like that? Yeah, it's scary. Not everyone wants to be like, I'm the proud owner of a sex cabin. I am, but not everybody does. We've had partners that were like, hey, listen, if you want to invest with us, this is what we're going to do. Well, I don't want my name on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like money or
Yeah,
no?
you like yeah.
So it's sometimes you just kind of have to detach yourself. And it's not that you have to take that concept, but you have to have something really cool. Like that is your game changer in your portfolio. So if you don't have a unique property, it's time to take a step back. You have to take yourself out of the box. And if you've already taken your first steps of investing in short term rentals, you took a step outside of the box to begin with. But it's very easy to get wrapped up into, well, here's the top 5 amenities for this market. I need to check all those boxes. I don't even have a hot tub. In the Smokies, I don't have a hot tub. That is the most basic amenity, but this cabin doesn't need it. So I removed every single thing that I should have had and just created my own checklist. And so feel free to step back, look at things at a really macro perspective, and then get very micro about the niche that you want to enter. So that would be my suggestion, is constantly taking that step back to see the bigger picture, see what's missing, see the voids in these markets, because as you said, there's opportunity in every city. And it's not necessarily for this type of property, but it needs something cool. It needs an attraction, and give it a full immersive experience. Don't miss the bathrooms. Don't miss the hallway. Don't miss the entrance. And I mean, there's very, very, very specific things that people forget all the time. But this is someone's break from their reality, and give them that opportunity, and your bank account will thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Uh, Finally, I mean, I got to ask the question. I'm sure that it just popped in my brain. I know someone's going to ask it. With this one cabin, like with cleaning, do the cleaners have to do anything different? Like, is it a crazy? Are they upset about, like, tell us about that.
Our cleaning fee is higher than an average one-bedroom cabin, obviously. Yes, there's specific chemicals that we use on things like the leather that we don't want it to deteriorate. We need to make sure it's properly sanitized. And so it does go through a different process. It's also not a cabin that gets put into like the main rotation of the cleaning company. So there's only two different groups, like two different people that are allowed to be in there and clean it, because we have set the bar so high. We have our own special linens. So they're not mixed in. It's not like you're, getting Sally's or whatever. And truly, we've only had one bad cleaning experience, since 2023 when it launched. And that's pretty impressive. It was bad, but one out of whatever 500 I'll take.
Hundreds, yeah. I'm assuming it's a lot more than 224. I'm sure. So, yeah, that's funny. Just don't bring a black light, right?
No, bring a black light.
Bring a
That's
black. Okay. All right. There's the challenge accepted, right? Awesome. All right. Well, Ashley, this has been really fun. I appreciate you coming on and sharing and just opening up about this. I think that it just, like I said, I think you hit the nail on the head. It doesn't have to be about sex or drugs. It could be other things, simple things, but getting creative, thinking outside the box and approaching a property and going, how can I make an immersive experience? Man, that was really good information. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Ashley, if someone's looking at Gulf Shores or some of these other areas, wants to connect with you, how do they do that?
Feel free to shoot me an email anytime. It's ashley@thefeminvestor.com. All of my social media handles are at the Feminvestor. So come check me out on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere. And I'm constantly sharing my life as it is as an STR owner, great finds here in Gulf Shores, and keeping it real about STR ownership. So tons of content, years of content you don't want to miss.
All right, awesome. So it's Ashley at thefeminvestor.com. Fem is FEMME, like the French way. So, all right, great. Ashley, thank you so much for being on the show. Any last words, anything like that to close us out? You want to leave us with any one tip I guess I should ask this. I ask every guest, what's one tip, one recommendation? It could be about what we talked about. It could be completely something else to cash flow positive with their short-term rentals.
Probably an unpopular opinion, but what we have lived by is commit and figure it out. And so many people are scared to commit. And that is the one thing that takes you from point A to point B. You just figure it out. Did I know absolutely what I was doing? No. Have I ever done a full remodel from out of state? No. Commit and figure it out. And that's the best thing.
I love it. I'm actually about to go sign some closing docs on a hotel. And I'm like, same mindset. It's like I've never done it before. Probably one of the scariest things I've ever done because it's completely different than what I'm used to doing and what I, help people do. And I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I'm just like, you know what? I love that. Commit and then figure it out. So everything's a puzzle, right? Are you going to be the one that figures out the puzzle or are you going to let someone else figure it out? It's like, so anyway, Ashley, this was really enjoyable. I enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for being on. And thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with just kidding. Don't share it with a friend. Maybe share it with your partner. You can share it with a friend, I guess, but this has been a really good one. Thank you so much, Ashley. And I hope everyone enjoyed listening and I'll see you on the next episode of Cash Flow Positive.
Thanks, Kenny.